Welcome back to Game Vault, where we explore the bold, the weird, and the wild, breaking down the mechanics that matter. Today's review, The Lacerator, a survival horror with retro slasher vibes, cinematic gore, and a grotesque twist. Losing limbs changes everything. But is this horror ride worth the screams, or just another cut and run? Let's find out. Gameplay. In The Lacerator, you play as Max, an 80s adult film star whose crew is abducted by the masked killer known only as the Lacerator. You awaken in his hideout, torn from your film set, and forced to survive in a spiraling nightmare of traps, twisted environments, and savage violence. The game plays out in classic survival horror style. Explore winding corridors, scavenge supplies, solve puzzles, avoid or confront enemies, and make your way toward escape. But there's a brutal hook. If you lose a limb, it's permanent for that playthrough. The loss affects movement, combat, and the paths you can take. The branching escape routes mean your remaining limbs determine which narrative branches and endings you can access. Players can choose between fixed camera angles for old-school horror feel, or over-the-shoulder third-person for more modern control. Mechanics and horror atmosphere. The signature mechanic here is limb loss. Lose an arm, and you might lose access to certain weapon options. Lose a leg, and your movement slows, forcing you to approach threats differently. It's a ruthless system that makes every trap, every slip, every fight carry weight. Combat includes melee and ranged weapons, with resource scarcity and traps ensuring that you can't just blast your way out. Puzzles and exploration tie into the survival loop. Find keys, manage health, avoid the Lacerator's traps, and adapt to your altered body if you lose limbs. The game's aesthetic channels 70s/80s. Grindhouse horror, low poly visuals, tank control movement, gore, and dark humor all play into a twisted tone. Pros. The limb loss system is a standout. Rare in horror games, it adds genuine tension and changes how you play. Strong nostalgia-driven presentation, channeling classic horror and grindhouse cinema with fresh energy. Branching paths and multiple endings give real replay value. The game changes depending on your physical state. Dual control schemes let you pick old-school fixed angles or modern over-the-shoulder play. A bold tone, gory, irreverent, and confidently absurd in all the right ways. Cons. The difficulty can be punishing. Losing limbs early might make progress feel frustrating rather than empowering. Some mechanics, like the tank controls or fixed camera, might feel dated or clunky for players used to modern horror action. The narrative and character motivations are intentionally trashy. If you're looking for deep story, this might not deliver. Optimization and polish may vary, especially with larger environments and gore physics. Final verdict. The Lacerator isn't afraid to get messy, absurd, and downright gruesome, and that's exactly its appeal. It combines survival horror fundamentals with a truly disruptive mechanic, losing limbs, and wraps it in a retro horror aesthetic that most games wouldn't dare. It's not perfect, its harsh difficulty and niche tone mean it won't be for everyone, but if you want a horror game that hits with both style and substance, this one manages a scary, bold escape. Our rating, 89 out of 100. If you enjoyed this review, hit that like button like you just severed the final limb, and subscribe to Game Vault for deep dives into games that cut deep into genre expectations. Drop a comment. What's the worst trap you survived, or which limb loss would hit you hardest? Until next time, stay sharp and stay glorious.